Hello friends, welcome to all. Myself Vishal Jogidas. Today we will discuss about starting and running torque equation of induction motor. This topic is covered in the subject of electrical machines 2. First we will discuss about starting torque TS. Let E2 is equal to motor EMF per phase at standstill and X2 is equal to rotor reactance per phase at standstill. R2 is equal to rotor resistance per phase. So here subscript 2 stands for rotor. Rotor impedance per phase Z2 is equal to under root R2 square plus X2 square at standstill. Standstill means speed is 0. Rotor current per phase I2 is equal to E2 upon Z2. It means it is equal to E2 upon under root R2 square plus X2 square. Now rotor power factor cos phi 2 equal to R2 upon Z2. It means it is equal to R2 upon under root R2 square plus X2 square. And all these terms are at standstill. Now starting torque is given by Ts is equal to K into E2 into I2 into cos phi 2. Now put the values of I2 and cos phi 2 from the above equation. So we have already put this. Ts is equal to K into E2 upon R2 square plus X2 square into R2 upon under root R2 square plus X2 square. Now multiplying these two under roots we get K into E2 square into R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square. Now generally the stator supply voltage V is constant, so that flux per pole phi set up by the stator is also fixed. This in turn means that EMF E2 induced in the rotor will be constant. So Ts is equal to K1 into R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square, or we can write K1 into R2 upon Z2 square, where K1 is the constant. It is clear that the magnitude of starting torque would depend on the relative values of R2 and X2. It means rotor resistance per phase and standstill rotor resistance reactance per phase. It can be shown that K is equal to 3 by 2 into pi into Ns. Therefore Ts is equal to 3 upon 2 pi Ns into E2 square into R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square. So this is the formula for starting torque. Note that here Ns is in revolution per seconds. Now condition for maximum starting torque. It can be proved that starting torque will be maximum when rotor resistance per phase is equal to standstill rotor reactance per phase. Now Ts is equal to K1 into R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square. This is we have derived in a previous slide. Now differentiating this equation with respect to R2 and equating the result to 0, then we get dTs upon dR2 is equal to K1 is constant. Then we have to differentiate this R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square. So it will be done and equate this result equal to 0. So after evaluating this we get R2 square plus X2 square is equal to 2R2 square. It means R2 is equal to X2. Hence starting torque will be maximum when rotor resistance per phase is equal to standstill rotor reactance per phase. It means whenever rotor resistance and rotor reactance will be equal, at that time the starting torque will be maximum. So this is the condition for maximum starting torque. Now effect of change in supply voltage on starting torque. Here we have derived this formula Ts is equal to K into E2 square into R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square. Since E2 is directly proportional to supply voltage V, therefore we can replace E2 square by V square, but the constant will be changed. So Ts is equal to K2 into V2 square into R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square. Now the constant will become K2 in place of K because we have replaced E2 by V. So K2 is another constant. Now starting torque is directly proportional to V square. All the other parameters, it means R2 and X2 and K2, all are constant. Therefore, the starting torque is very sensitive to changes in the value of supply voltage. For example, a drop of 10% in the supply voltage will decrease the starting torque by about 20%. So this could mean the motor failing to start if it cannot produce a torque greater than the load torque plus friction torque. So this is the effect of change in supply voltage to the starting torque. Now starting torque of three-phase induction motors. First we will see squirrel cage motors. Since the motor bars are permanently short circuited, it is not possible to add any external resistance in the rotor circuit at starting. Consequently, the stalling torque of such motors is low. Squirrel cage motors have starting torque of 1.5 to 2 times of the full load value, with a starting current of 5 to 9 times the full load current. So, starting torque of squirrel cage induction motor is somewhat less as compared to wound rotor motors, and average starting current will be near about 7 times the full load current. Now talk about wound rotor motors. The resistance of the rotor circuit of such motors can be increased through the addition of external resistance. By inserting the proper value of external resistance so that R2 is equal to X2, then maximum starting torque can be obtained. As the motor accelerates, the external resistance is gradually cut out until the rotor circuit is short circuited on itself for running conditions. So, by using a wound rotor or slip ring motors, we can make the starting torque maximum whenever we set R2 equal to X2. So, this is the condition for maximum starting torque. Now torque under running conditions. Let the rotor at standstill have per phase induced EMF is E2, reactance X2 and resistance R2. Then under running condition at slip S, rotor EMF per phase E2 dash is equal to S into E2. Rotor reactance per phase X2 dash is equal to S into X2. Rotor impedance per phase Z2 dash is equal to under root R2 square plus SX2 square. Rotor current per phase I2 dash is equal to E2 dash upon Z2 dash. It means it is equal to S into E2 upon R2 square plus SX2 square. Rotor power factor cos phi m dash is equal to R2 upon under root R2 square plus SX2 square. So these are the formulas for torque under running conditions. Here we can see that it is S into X2, here is R2, rotor resistance and rotor reactance, and E2 dash is equal to S into E2. Here is the triangle for impedance triangle. Now running torque TR is proportional to E2 dash I2 dash into cos phi 2 dash. Now E2 dash is directly proportional to phi, so we can replace E2 dash by phi. So it is proportional to phi into I2 dash into cos phi 2 dash. Now put the value of I2 dash and phi 2 dash in this formula. We get it is proportional to phi into s into E2 upon under root R2 square plus Sx2 square into R2 upon under root R2 square plus Sx2 square. Now multiply the denominator and numerator. We get phi into s into E2 into R2 upon the square root will be removed whenever we multiply these two under roots. So we get R2 square plus Sx2 square. Now here is a proportional sign. If we have to replace equal to sign, then we have to add constant k. So it is equal to running torque is equal to k into phi s into R2 upon R2 square plus Sx2 square. Now E2 is proportional to phi, so we can replace E2 in place of phi. So we get TR is equal to K1 into S into E2 square into R2 upon R2 square plus Sx2 square. If the stator supply voltage V is constant, then stator flux and hence E2 will be constant. So TR is equal to K2 into S into R2 upon R2 square plus Sx2 square, where K2 is another constant. Now torque under running conditions. It may be seen that running torque is directly proportional to slip. It means if slip increases, it means motor speed decreases, the torque will increase and vice versa. And running torque is directly proportional to square of the supply voltage, because E2 is directly proportional to V. So it can be shown that values of K1 is equal to 3 upon 2 pi ns, where ns is in revolution per second. Therefore TR is equal to, put the value of K1 in this. Therefore TR is equal to 3 upon 2 pi ns into S into E2 square into R2 upon R2 square plus Sx2 square. And it is equal to 3 upon 2 pi ns into S into E2 square into R2 upon Z2 dash square. So we can replace this term by Z2 dash. At starting, whenever S is equal to 1, so that starting torque is given by Ts is equal to, by putting the S is equal to 1 in this formula, we get Ts is equal to 3 upon 2 pi ns into E2 square into R2 upon R2 square plus X2 square. So this is the starting torque. Now maximum torque under running conditions. So this is the formula. This is the formula for running torque. TR is equal to K2 into S into R2 upon R2 square plus S square into X2 square. In order to find the value of rotor resistance that gives maximum torque under running conditions, differentiate the above equation with respect to S and equate the result to 0. So dTR upon ds is equal to K2 into the differentiation of this. It means first differentiation of S into R2 into numerator term R2 dash plus this minus the differentiation of denominator term into numerator term as it is, and divide by denominator square. And this is the rule of differentiation, and equate this to equal to 0. Now from this we get R2 square plus s square into x2 square minus 2s x2 square is equal to 0. Therefore, r2 square is equal to s square into x2 square, or r2 is equal to s x2. So this is the condition for maximum torque under running condition. Thus, for maximum torque under running conditions is equal to rotor resistance per phase equal to slip into standstill rotor reactance per phase. Now, running torque is proportional to S into R2 upon R2 square plus S square into X2 square. For maximum torque, R2 is equal to Sx2. Putting the R2 is equal to Sx2 in the above expression, then we get maximum torque is proportional to 1 upon 2x2. Slip corresponding to maximum torque is equal to S is equal to R2 upon x2. It can be shown that Tm is equal to 3 upon 2 pi ns into E2 square upon 2x2 Newton into meter. So this is the maximum torque. It is evident from the above equation that the value of rotor resistance does not alter the value of the maximum torque, but only the value of the slip at which it occurs. The maximum torque varies inversely as the standstill reactance. Therefore, it should be kept as small as possible. So, this we can observe from the formula. The maximum torque varies directly with the square of the applied voltage. So, this is also we have observed in a formula. To obtain maximum torque at starting, it means slip is equal to 1, the rotor resistance must be made equal to rotor reactance at standstill. So this is the condition for starting maximum. Hello friends, welcome to all. Today we will discuss about rotating magnetic field due to three-phase currents. And it is a topic of electrical machines too, and in this subject there is a subject induction motor. So this topic is related to induction motor. When a three-phase winding is energized from a three-phase supply, a rotating magnetic field is produced. This field is such that its poles do not remain in a fixed position on the stator, but on shifting their positions around the stator. For this reason, it is called as a rotating field. It can be shown that magnitude of this rotating field is constant and is equal to 1.5 into phi m, where phi m is the maximum flux due to any phase. So this is the fact that the magnitude will be constant and its value is 1.5 into phi m. To see how rotating field is produced, consider a two-pole three-phase winding shown in figure. We will see in next slide we will see figure. The three phases X, Y and Z are energized from a three-phase source, and currents in these phases are indicated as Ix, Iy and Iz. So now we will see this figure. Okay. So this is the figure. Three phases are X, Y and Z. And we know that three phase windings are phase displacement of these three phases is 120 degree. So referring to this figure, the flux produced by these currents are given by flux due to x phase is phi x is equal to phi m sin omega t. Then flux due to y phase is phi y is equal to phi m sin omega t minus 120 degree. Now the y here is omega t minus 120 degree because here is a 120 degree difference as compared to x phase. Same way, flux due to z phase is equal to phi m sin omega t minus 240 degree. So here also we can observe that the phase difference between y and z phase is also 120 degree. So all the three phases are displaced at 120 degree phase shift. Okay, here we can see waveforms of current. First is the waveform due to current of x phase. It is Ix, then Iy and Iz. So these three currents are phase displaced by 120 degree, and here we can see numbers, some numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the instants where we will analyze and discuss about rotating magnetic field. So instant 1, instant 2, instant 3 and instant 4 will be discussed in the next slide. Here phi m is the maximum flux due to any phase. Figure shows the phasor diagram of three fluxes. Here we can see one figure. Here is phi x, phi y and phi z. Now we shall now prove that this three phase supply produces a rotating field of constant magnitude equal to 1.5 into phi m. So we have to prove that rotating field of constant magnitude will be 1.5 into phi m. So for this proof we will discuss in 4 instant we have seen in a previous slide. So at instant 1 the current in phase x is 0 and currents in phases y and z are equal and opposite. So how can we see that? Back to the next slide. Yes, here we can see at instant 1 the current of Ix is 0. Here we can see that it is 0, and current of Iy and Iz are equal and opposite. It means current of Iy is negative and current of Ix is in this positive side. So the both currents values are same, but that are opposite in signs. So the currents are flowing outward in the top conductors and inward in the bottom conductors, that we have seen in a previous waveform. This establishes a resultant flux towards right. So due to this condition the resultant flux will be right hand side. So here we can see this is the resultant flux waveform phi r. The magnitude of the resultant flux is constant and is equal to 1.5 into phi m. So how can we prove that? It is proved as under now. At instant 1 omega t is equal to 0. Therefore the three fluxes are given by flux due to x phase phi x is equal to 0, then flux due to y phase is equal to phi m sin minus 120 degree. It means it is equal to minus root 3 by 2 into phi m. And flux due to z phase phi z is equal to phi m sin minus 240 degree. It means it is equal to root 3 by 2 into phi m. So here we can observe that phi y and phi z are value of phi y and phi z are same, but sign is changed. It means phi y is negative and phi z is positive. The phasor sum of phi y and phi z is the resultant flux phi r, and it is clear that resultant flux phi r is equal to 2 into root 3 by 2 phi m into cos 60 by 2. By evaluating this we get it is equal to 1.5 into phi m. So this is the proof. At instant 1 we have proved that the resultant flux is equal to 1.5 into phi m. Same way we can prove this for next instant. It means at instant 2 the current is maximum negative in phi phase y and 0.5 maximum positive in phases x and y. So the magnitude of resultant flux is again here also 1.5 into phi m. So here is a phasor diagram is also given here. Here is phi x, phi y and phi z. So resultant flux is seen here. Flux due to x phase phi x is equal to phi m sin 30 degree. Keep in mind that in instant 1 there is a sign phase displacement of 30 degree. Okay, so it is equal to phi m by 2. Then flux due to phi y is equal to phi m sin minus 90 degree. It means it is equal to minus phi m. And flux due to z phase phi z is equal to phi m sin minus 240 degree. It means it is equal to phi m by 2. So the phasor sum of phi x and minus phi y and phi z is resultant flux phi r. Phasor sum of phi x and phi z, that is phi r dash, is equal to this. It is phi m by 2. Therefore phasor sum of phi r dash and minus phi y, phi r is equal to phi m by 2 plus phi m. So it is equal to 1.5 into phi m. So again here the resultant flux value will be 1.5 into phi m. One note is here. Note that resultant flux is displaced 30 degree clockwise from position 1. So we have seen in instant 1 the resultant flux was this direction. In this direction, it means in a right hand side horizontal direction. But in an instant 2 the resultant flux is phase displaced by 30 degree. So our aim is how the rotating magnetic field is generated. So here we have observed that from instant 1 to instant 2 the flux is rotated at 30 degree. Now we will see the instant 3. Okay, this is instant 3. Current in phase Z is 0 and the currents in phases X and Y are equal and opposite. The magnitude of resultant flux is 1.5 into phi m. At instant 3, omega t is equal to 60 degree. Therefore, the three fluxes are given by phi x is equal to phi m sin 60 degree is equal to root 3 by 2 phi m. Then phi y is equal to phi m sin minus 60 degree. It is equal to minus root 3 by 2 into phi m. And flux due to z phase phi z is equal to phi m sin minus 180 degree and it is 0. So the resultant flux phi r is the phasor sum of phi x and minus phi y. So phi r is equal to 2 into root 3 by 2 phi m into cos 60 by 2. So after evaluating this we get the answer is 1.5 into phi m. So again the resultant flux is constant and it is 1.5 into phi m. One note is here, note that resultant flux is displaced 60 degree clockwise from position 1. So here we can observe that here is a resultant flux due to instant 1, here is resultant flux due to instant 2 and here is the resultant flux due to instant 3. So we can observe that the resultant flux is revolving in a clockwise direction. From instant 1 to instant 2 it is 30 degree clockwise, then from instant 2 to instant 3 it is again 30 degree, and from instant 1 to instant 3 it is a 60 degree revolving in a clockwise. Now last we see the instant 4. The current in phase X is maximum positive and the current in phases Y and Z are equal and negative, This establishes the resultant flux downward as shown under. At instant for omega t is equal to 90 degree, therefore the three fluxes are given by phi x is equal to phi m sin 90 degree, it is equal to phi m. Then flux due to phase y, phi y is equal to phi m sin minus 90 degree, therefore it is equal to minus phi m by 2. And phi flux due to z phase, phi z is equal to phi m sin minus 150 degree, it is equal to minus phi m by 2. So after evaluating this, we get resultant flux is equal to 1.5 into phi m. So again it is 1.5 into phi m constant. So in all the four instants, we have proved that the resultant flux is 1.5 into phi m. One note is here also, note that the resultant flux is downward, it means it is displaced 90 degree clockwise from position 1. So here is the resultant flux. So from this discussion, we can conclude that it follows from the above discussion that a three-phase supply produces a rotating field of constant value, it is equal to 1.5 into phi m, where phi m is the maximum flux due to any one phase. So this is the proof how the rotating magnetic field is produced. Thank you.